Wonderful to be here and to see so many people. It's like a family reunion, isn't it? Coming here, it's just so good. Now I have to do some technical stuff, so this is going to be scary because it just always is. Now I am presenting Clinicians Get Creative on behalf of the Naked Physio. So this is his clip.
Hi everyone, Paul here, aka the Naked Physio, coming to you from Auckland, New Zealand. Just wanted to say I'm gutted I can't be at San Diego this year to present Clinicians Get Creative to you. Unfortunately, other things took priority. But don't be downhearted. Corey Blickenstaff and Ray Allen wiped that tear away. The wonderful Bronnie Thompson, who should be standing below me somewhere, has graciously stepped forward to bring you Clinicians Get Creative this year at the San Diego Pain Summit. Now, I've had a look over the talk, and bias on my part, it's a pretty awesome talk with lots of content in there to get your neurons firing. So get your pens or iPads at the ready to make those all-important notes. Anyway, so enjoy the talk, enjoy the weather, have plenty of beer on me, and share those thoughts, come up with the ideas. Gilletta, I'll be watching intently, and hopefully you get some newfound knowledge, and most importantly, have a great time. Anyway, hope to see you all next year.
Yes.
Cheers for now.
You cannot stop a video, like, you know, in mid-mouth or mid-speech, because it never looks attractive, does it? But isn't he gorgeous? I think so. So as Paul said, I'm presenting on his behalf, Clinicians Get Creative, and I'm going to talk for a little while, and then you're going to have some things to do, which is always fun, especially when it's the after lunch talk. Yeah. I don't know how I got that. Anyway, so I'm going to just get this thing rolling. Ha. Okay, your mission, should you choose to accept it, and you'd always have a choice when it's me, is to grab your pens, get your paper, and you're going to have a minute, perhaps slightly under, because I'm mean like that, to write down all the uses you have that you can think of for a brick. Okay? Go. What can you do with a brick? That could be a use. Creating patience. How many can you come up with? One. No, bricks, plural. I don't care. What can you do with bricks? You've got about 20 seconds to go. This will wake your brains up, make you think. There are some really seriously sad people in the audience, aren't there? Drown up puppy. You wouldn't do that. That is. Okay, stop. Pens down. Okay, what I'd like you to do is count up how many uses for a brick. Count them up. So how many have got more than 15? Oh, come on. Surely. More than 10? Yes. More than 9? Keep your hands up. If you've got your hands up, keep them up there. More than 9? More than 8? More than 7? Oh, that's better. Phew. More than 6? Okay, stop now. You can put your hands down. Well done, you. The more uses that you can find for this is an actual test of creativity, of creative thinking. The more things that you can think of with a brick, clearly we have some extremely creative people in the audience, the more creative you are. And I think, as does the Naked Physio, that we are amongst the most creative people in the world, because every time we see somebody, we tweak what we do. Am I right? Yeah. There is a problem though, because sometimes we get used to having just a hammer. We get into a bit of a rut, and you know what happens when all you've got is a hammer? You know. And so, yeah, everything gets belted. And so one of the purposes of this session is to prod you. You know, it's after lunch and you get sleepy, and to prod you though, to think a little bit more creatively. Because we know that we can get into a little bit of a rut where everybody gets the same. They get the same exercises, they get the same algorithm, we follow that, they get the same pain education. And I don't think that works. Not as well as perhaps it could do if we got smart. Because metaphors really matter. Because pain's an abstract, and because you and I don't know what my pain is like, and I can't tell what yours is like, we have to use communication, and very often we use metaphors to try and work out what is that person actually on about. So the kinds of metaphors that we use matter. Metaphors assume that there are some similarities between A and B. Metaphors assume that we know this one A and this B is we're not quite so familiar with. So we've talked about the brain as a computer. We have some vague idea of how computers work. It's very vague for some people. And we think that that's how to explain the way that our brains work. Doesn't quite fit, but it gives us a bit of an idea. And we use metaphors fluidly and all day, every day. We don't even realise that we're using metaphor. Let me give you some examples. Did you think of these as metaphors? The ills of society? The local branch of the organisation? So the purpose of metaphor is for us to learn something, to be able to understand a kind of concept. And it's used effortlessly. They just roll off the tongue. Oh my goodness, I just did another one, didn't I? Just rolled off my tongue. And it's thought to be part of how we reason. From the time we're little children to the time we're adults, we keep on using metaphor as a way of understanding the world and making sense of what's going on. These guys are particularly famous. If you ever get a chance to read their book, feel like a little bit of meaty linguistics, cognitive psychology, read Lakoff and Johnson. So we use metaphors, we don't always realise that we're using them. And if we use a metaphor that the person that we're talking with doesn't understand, we can get these crossed messages. And that can happen especially when we're trying to explain something as messy and complicated as pain. I'd like to tell you a story, Beauty and the Beast. This story describes headache sufferers as precious silver cups which have been tarnished. They live in a castle with a king turned beast, since he did not allow an old beggar woman a shelter. And his punishment was to live as a beast until he could find someone to love or someone who will love him in return. It was not the sufferer's fault that their master turned into an ugly beast, but since they lived in the castle, their lives, just like his, were put on hold. Their job was not to let this unique, bright and precious silver cup become too tarnished, too rusty or too fragile. They had to keep polishing it in order to keep its uniqueness, vitality and preciousness, so that one day soon they will be able to regain control of their lives. Just as the beast was able to find love and forgiveness again, people with chronic headache can also become human again. Stories can tell us things that we can't express in instructions. Quite like that. So stories serve as metaphors, as future guides or a roadmap in our own lives as well as in the lives of our family members who seek our help. When working with headache sufferers and their families, one needs to let them share their painful stories, tell them our own if appropriate, and encourage them to identify their inner strengths, resiliencies and uniqueness. This is a lovely paper, I've got the reference, by Yuri Ruveni. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Just a lovely way of talking about the way we can use stories and metaphors to understand people, situations, concepts. Some of you are on the Facebook group Explaining Pain Science. If you're not, you should be. And you will know this. You will know on the train to Holville. Yeah? Does anyone remember that? Yep. So, life is like a passing train. This is another metaphor that we can use when we're working with people. That people can feel like they're standing on the sides of the platform, watching life, the train, go by. And being unable to step onto that train and take off again, or feeling that they can't. This man uses the life as a passing train when he's working with families to say you and your partner are travelling on trains that are running in opposite directions. We can use stories like this to help people understand not the technical language, but the emotion, what it feels like to be a person living with pain. You can use the train metaphor for discussing with patients. So if life is like a train, where are you? Are you the train driver? Or are you a passenger? Are you a guard? Do you monitor everything? Or are you somebody waiting at a train station, waiting for the right time to jump aboard? What does the right time look like? If you're jumping aboard that train, where are you going? And what does that life on the train look like? What's the destination? We can use that to help people understand a little bit more about their choices and where they want to go when living with pain. So why use analogy? Well, poems are like a little meditation, because poems lead us to experience something. And people who are living with pain, whether it's short-term pain or long-term pain, have an experience that often they can't communicate in the way that we say, oh yeah, my pain is a naught, somewhere on this 0 to 10 scale. That's not enough to explain what pain is really like. It doesn't capture the feeling of the never-ending now, of being stuck with pain, particularly if it's a chronic pain and a pain that people can't put a label to. That sense of, I'm in this by myself, and that train is going on without me. Just like all subjective and personal experiences, pain is inherently impossible to describe. Early descriptors, Melzack and Torgerson's 1971 paper on the language of pain, pulled descriptive terms, we know them, lancinating, gripping, gnawing, aching, and used those to help us as clinicians understand the world of the people that these people were working with. There's an acceptance that we have as clinicians that when somebody says lancinating, we know what they mean. Do you know, if you put in a Google search and you look for lancinating, the only place that you will find it, the only associations that we'll have, is with pain research. But the word lancinating came from the use of a bayonet, and it depicts that piercing, stabbing of a bayonet. Isn't that a metaphor for pain? The patient has abstracted from his idea of stabbing an image of violent penetration, which he uses in a metaphorical way to refer to his own pain. You can tell it was a bloke what wrote that. Metaphor isn't always practical. For some people, like people who have aphasia, people who have dementia or confusion, metaphor doesn't make sense and we can't use metaphor. But for most of the people that we work with, we use metaphor to help explain complicated things. And that is a good thing. But if we get stuck, as I say, with one kind of metaphor, and that doesn't fit for that person or it doesn't capture that experience, then we're not really doing justice to the power of metaphor. Imagery is also really used. These are images of hell. Notice the similarities. Hell is about body torment. I'd like you just to take a moment to think about your clinic. What are you conveying in your clinic? What images do you have in your clinic? And what does that say to the people that you work with? The journey is much easier when not carrying your past. No matter how slow you go, you're still lapping everyone on the couch. It's true. Life is like a piano. The white keys represent happiness. The black keys show sadness. But as you go through life's journey, remember that the black keys make music too. Metaphor. We can be creative in many different ways. One of the ways that we can be creative is when we use games. How many have used games in therapy? Yes. Yes? I've used games a lot. I wonder what it would be like if we were creative enough to, okay, this is a commercial product and I don't have shares, but we used games as a way of helping people do exercise. You can see this body as an exercise-free zone. I don't exercise. I dance, I garden, I dust the house occasionally. I really hate vacuuming, but I'll do movement that's fun. We can do creative things with people. So some of the things that I do with my patients, we will go, patients who are afraid of walking on slippery surfaces, don't want to be around bustling around the supermarket, don't want to go into a mall, find it's too scary because somebody could come behind them and bump them. We go have coffee in the cafe and then we just sneak into the mall. And so we can be playful. We don't have to be limited to, I need to use my clinic with my serious training gear. We can have some fun. Now I would like to show you a very innovative and new way of working with creativity. This is a very brief snip that I want to give of Eugenie Lee, who is she's an artist actually, and she's working with researchers to use VR to help people experience what it feels like to have chronic pain, to experience chronic pain. And this is where we have to get technical because I have to work out how how I can get rid of that slide. It's gone, good. So I'm going to play just as an excerpt from Eugenie Lee's video.
Hi Lisa, so this artwork is about for you to experience what it must be like to live with chronic pain. I'm going to use a particular chronic pain type called complex regional pain syndrome. It's a neuropathic disease, so it's invisible, but it can happen to any part of the body, but it tends to most commonly happen to their limbs. So I'm going to use your right hand today to demonstrate some of the symptoms and visual effects of CRPS today. I've been collaborating with pain researchers from University of South Australia, Body in Mind, and also Neuroscience Research Australia. So there are 3 stages involved in this artwork. So first stage, I'm going to take you through a mediated reality machine called the Mirage, and I'm going to use 3 very tests they use in their labs just to demonstrate how cognitive functions are inherently related to chronic pain experience. So I'll be manipulating your sensory perceptions quite a lot. The reason I'm talking about sensory perception here is because chronic pain experience or any pain experience involves sensory alteration in our brain. So according to neuroscientists, it happens like this. We absorb the sensory perception from our surroundings through vision, sound, movement, and touch. These things, they reach our brain, but this information doesn't relay straight away unfiltered. What happens is that it integrates with our personal experience, childhood memory, whether you slept well last night or whether you're anxious today. All this personal experience becomes integrated and molded together with the sensory perceptions, and what comes out of is your conscious experience from second to second. And so chronic pain is exactly like this because it's just like any other conscious experience. So it is very complex and it's an individual experience, it's subjective, invisible and private experience. So when especially it is invisible, it is extremely difficult for other people to be able to empathize what the people with chronic pain are going through. So what I'm going to do for this whole exhibition is for you to experience as a whole bodily sort of sense, for you to sort of understand in a very personal level. After that, I'm going to take you through the second stage into the anechoic chamber. So people who doesn't understand what anechoic chamber is, it literally means a room without echo. So it's a very small anechoic chamber I've created. So it basically sucks the sound. It absorbed all the echoes that we're normally used to, because sound normally bounces back, and that's how we are normally used to this. But when that's sort of taken away, it kind of feels quite disorientating for some people. So in a way, it's an incommunicability when it comes to chronic pain experience, because verbal language can be extremely difficult, inadequate to convey how they are feeling, to express properly. And then I'm going to help you to put on custom-built gloves on your right hand, and you're going to wear virtual reality goggles. Again, it is another metaphorical experience because you'll be immersed in a world that I have created for you that no one else can see because you're the only one wearing the goggles. In the same way that people living with chronic pain, they are trapped in the world that's created by their own pain that no one else can see or experience. And then after that, I'm going to take you back out here to evaluate your response. And can you give me your index finger like this, please? Excellent. And slightly raise above the surface. Yeah. Good. So if I place this block, you can touch it, but if I place all the way here, without you moving entire hand, you won't be able to touch it. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is give you a little tug and see what happens. So stay still, please.
Oh.
So now you can
Oh my goodness.
You can wiggle your finger just to make sure it is still yours. Yeah. Okay. So let me try something else now. Wiggle your finger, yeah?
Oh, my poor little finger.
Okay, so this time I'm going to pull your index finger back out, and I want you to tell me when it reached a normal length for you. Okay, so tell me when.
Yeah.
That's actually 11% longer than your actual finger.
This is like so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, so what just happened is that I changed your brain. So there's no sound bouncing back anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so generally, if you stay here long enough, the anxiety level will go up. People living with chronic pain, their sensory response to their surrounding can be quite different to people with healthy, normal people. Not only the sound is taken away from you, but also I'm going to replace with different type of sound. So that's going to be more disorientating. In extreme cases, it could cause some people nausea.
That's okay.
Okay.
Cool.
No advertising.
So when I
for
start the
Oculus?
session, I encourage you to look around, explore the room while you are seated
Yeah.
as much as you can, because room will start changing.
Okay.
And whichever direction you turn, I want you to keep your right hand within your vision at all times,
Yeah.
because your right hand will start giving you certain visual effects of CRPS. Do you see the shadow?
Yeah.
The wall? Great.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh. Ah! I can feel my hand tingling. It feels really hot. Oh. Oh, and it looks really swollen.
The power of virtual reality, where we can use a way to immerse somebody in an experience. So this woman does not have complex regional pain syndrome, but when she wears that glove and we give that feedback to her via both the sensation of the glove and also from the virtual reality, she is experiencing what somebody living with complex regional pain syndrome experiences. Now, at this point of our technology, we don't have games that we can use with patients. But just like the Wii Fit that I showed you before, it's not going to be very long before this sort of technology will be available. So both Paul and I now have virtual reality goggles, so watch this space. Let me just bring my presentation back up. So having shown you some interesting ways to stimulate thinking about how we convey not just technical knowledge, not just words, facts, dry, this is your exercise, but something about the experience, and talked a little bit about metaphor and how we can use something that we understand generally to explain something complex, something that perhaps we don't understand as well. Now it's your turn. So what I propose is that we break into 7 groups. You'll need to turn around in your tables. We have some posters, big poster pieces, and some pens. And I'm going to give each group a name or a word of an object. And your mission, again, should you choose to accept it, is to use this item that I give you to explain some aspect of living with pain, managing pain, explaining pain in some way. So form approximately 7 groups. You'll need to turn around and I will drop these off. So how are we getting on? We've got a group back there. You've got a group? Yeah, yep, you can be a group. And do you have another? Oh, the markers are down the back. Yep. Oh, yours is easy peasy. You're going to have fun with that. You have a car. I think we're right now. Do you guys, you're a table? You haven't got your paper yet, but your item is a USB stick. So what you have to do, somebody can be a scribe in the group. You've all got a big sheet of paper and a pen, and you've all been given a piece of paper with an item written on it. And your mission is to come up with a way that you can use that item as a way to explain an aspect of pain. So as a metaphor. For example, a clothes peg could be used as a really good way to say that when you experience pain, the clothes peg is a way of holding that experience and remembering it. So every time you see that clothes peg, it reminds you of all the things that you experience. So you can use it to explain some neurophysiology or neurobiology. You could use it to explain a coping strategy. I don't care. Now you have about 15 minutes to do this. So you guys are doing so well. There's some amazingly creative responses to the challenges that I posed. So I'll give you just another few minutes to kind of tidy your ideas up, no pressure. And then what we may do is we have a little bit of time, we'll share them. Okay everyone, let's come back to the middle. Well done. I have a selection of songs, by the way. It's amazing how many songs have pain or hurt or, you know, king of pain. There's an awful lot of love hurts. Does not take long to find songs with pain in the title. So, yes, that's the one. So, I am really excited to see what you wonderfully creative clinicians have come up with. What I propose is that we have a spokesperson from each group to just talk us through some of the metaphors that you've come up with. But that is not all, because I'm going to give you a link, this link here, and we are collecting, Eric is collecting metaphors. We want a collection of metaphors that clinicians can use. So all the metaphors that we have found today can get entered into this crowdsourced set of metaphors so that you can dip in and out and find some metaphors to suit you. What do you think? Cool, huh? So let's do this we'll do this like popcorn, which means I'm going to glare at a group, they're going to go pop, and they're going to speak. Yes? Yes. I'm glaring at Ruth, because I can. Can someone be a spokesperson from that group? Tell us what your item was and what you've come up with.
We have fish hooks. We have a lot of stuff.
Fish hooks. Fish hooks.
Okay, so we have a bowl of fish hooks. When you try to grab the one hook, it just pulls a bunch with it, so it just gets caught. So it's like your pain becoming exacerbated.
Oh, isn't that cool?
We have, let's see, if you're hooked and you try to pull away, it might not work and you keep coming back and keep getting stuck. So you actually have to push through the hook because of the barbs on the hook.
Yeah. Get a little closer to the hook.
Fish hook is the pain, and you drag it along, it can catch more issues and get stuck on those barbs, and you end up with more than you expect on your hook.
Ooh.
Patients can act like everything has a hidden hook, even the flies that don't look like there's a hook attached to it.
Yes. So they can be disguised.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a trap. Where the lure looks appetizing. Treble hooks, which can kind of, I can't see that. They can be inescapable without help.
Yes.
Because there's multiple hooks on that one. And sometimes a fish hook can be used as a tool and it sometimes looks useful.
Yeah.
There's a right way and a wrong way to remove a hook.
Yes.
Sometimes when you cast your hook, you can get snagged and held back from taking care of the things that before you can do anything else. Before you can do anything else, you gotta unsnag it. There we go.
Wonderful.
Came back to it. And that's it.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, well done. So, whenever you are working with a fisherman or woman, because, I'm a fisher person, you can use those. I love the image of, when you pick one hook out, but all of the rest come attached to it. Isn't that graphic? That's just, and it so fits for pain. Fabulous. Thank you so much. We're going to glare across this side because, Bruce is trying to run away and he's not going to. So who's going to be the spokesperson for this group?
Okay, so ours was padlock. Oh, right.
Like a padlock, a combination lock.
Thank you. So ours was padlock. So we felt, you may feel like you're wrapped in chains locked with a padlock, but you just need to fight the right combination to unlock you, was one of them. But then we also didn't like the idea of there only being one key to a lock. We didn't like the idea of describing that pain, so we went the other way also and said your pain is not like a padlock. There might not only be one key.
Oh, I like it. Very good. Thank you so much. That was a tough one. Pop in the middle here. This group in the back. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of artistic license here. Oh, two lads.
Yeah, so you have the check engine light, not working, like the oxygen sensor going bad.
So their object was a car.
Yeah, so ours was a car, and we're doing metaphors for pain around the car. The check engine light is on, but the car's functioning fine. I'm sure you've all experienced that. Mm-hmm. You have to drive a car. You can't let it sit stagnant. The oil will go bad, the gas will go bad, so you have to keep using it.
Ooh.
You have to be accommodating to changes in the car. There's an interdependence of systems in the car. There's the electrical system, there's the combustion going on, it's getting air, there's a lot of different systems. There's 4 tires in a car, they all need to be inflated. So, we have, for the 4 that we picked, are social support, confidence in your body, understanding pain, and management strategies.
Very good.
You purchase a car based on an emotional response, and you purchase your pain based on an emotional response as well. A car requires maintenance and rest. And then, is the car driving you, or are you driving the car? As this guy's towing the car behind him, and he's saying life isn't fair, and he's dragging this car around that he doesn't have to drag around anymore.
Wow, thank you so much. Great stuff. We need this group somewhere in here to pop. Yes. Now, I did not plan this, but these guys got a camera, and Charlotta is in the group. And if anybody hasn't seen Joe's photos, you need to.
I don't want to pull a Bruce and spill everything. So we had camera, so we talked about how a camera takes a picture of what you look like, but not what you feel. And for experiences, if you were traveling, it captures what that scene looks like, but not what that experience felt like. We talked about how you can zoom in and out. So a lot of times with pain, you're zooming in either just on the pain or that specific body part, where you can start to pan out and see more of the bigger picture and life, everything else around you. We also talked about how life can be black and white or gray or color and all of those sorts of things. And those might mean different things to different people. People might like a grayscale rather than color, but tying that in with their own experiences. We talked about pain as a flash and how a flash can be useful in certain conditions because it can illuminate things, but that it can also be not useful and lead to overexposure where you lose the details of a picture, details of a life.
Yeah.
And we talked about using it as a strategy too, which this is why Bronnie said it's cheating, because it was a strategy for me, and my own pain was taking pictures and going out into the world and feeling like I could connect with the world again by seeking out beauty and details and taking the focus off myself and my pain and kind of getting that broader perspective. But you can use it to seek out those things that you're grateful for, that you find beautiful, Sims for people that are in the explain pain vernacular. And we also talked, it's not on the list, but about cropping images and going back and selecting out specific things which could either be positive or negative. That's what we have.
Thank you. Yes, you know you want to.
Yeah.
Pop. And what was your item?
A USB stick.
A USB stick. Yeah.
So everyone knew what this was.
That is good.
Okay, it's a USB stick. So everybody knew what this was. Can be updated or changed. It can have good info that you can't find anywhere. It can have more than one. It's not permanent. Maybe not everyone knows what it is. It might be age appropriate. It's a way of storing experience of past pain, and it can be erased. It can be disguised. It can be shared. You have to be the one to put things on it. It's yours. Can be yours personally. There's a limit to how much it can be on it. The size is important. It's plastic. It's not permanent. It can be encrypted. It can be lost. It can be forgotten. It's age dependent. It can be corrupted and have faulty info. It can have a really small storage size. It can have good info on it. It may not work the same for everyone. Might be different computer software. Not useful in all populations. An old woman with chronic pain may not know what a USB stick. A 4-year-old may not know what a USB stick is. Let's see. There's a limit to how much it can be on it. It can be hidden because it can be very small. You can carry it around and show people. Let's see. It could be meaningless depending on your socioeconomic status. It could carry a virus. Let's see. It can be password protected. It could become outdated. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, good one. It may not have been yours to begin with.
Well done. Thank you. Who's left? This group. Yeah? There's 2 groups. Yeah.
Fell out of my shoe. Okay, our word was keys. So we had a really good analogy from Harry Potter with the key that had the broken wing, but it was still the right key, even though it was broken.
Yeah.
But also that not everything that's broken is not useful. You can still be useful if you're broken. We had an analogy of like being stuck on the couch, and even though like maybe you're in a big house and you got lots of room, but you feel, sorry, I'm out of the way. You feel locked in. So the lock and key model of neuro-reprogramming the brain.
Yep.
So for self-recognition, so when we ourselves are locking ourselves into a thought, to be able to recognize that and to be able to unlock ourselves. wiggle the key. So maybe something is a little bit altered, but it doesn't mean that your key's not working. You just might have to jiggle the key a little bit. We all know how that one goes. So we were thinking about musical stuff as well. So when the song's not in the right key, you still know something's off.
Oh, that's clever. That's clever.
As well as sometimes the whole song can be magnificent, but one wrong note is played and it throws things off a little bit. There's not one magic key for every lock, so the whole basis of like us having to streamline everything for the individual. So, and that not one key works every time as well, so you might have to use a different key next time. The inability to unlock yourself, and like Jesse talked about, like that moment when you've lost your keys and how for some people or at certain times that's not a big deal and at other times it's catastrophic.
That's a great one.
That's it.
Well done. Thank you. Really enjoyed that. Where are we? One more? Yes, over there. How could I forget you? I couldn't. Yeah, you're the spokesman. Oh, there's two groups. So.
Are we going first?
Okay, the bucket.
All right, we were lazy. We just did one analogy instead of many. Sorry about the gore. That was the girls over here drawing some barbed wire and blood. So this would be a great analogy for the person that comes in and says, all I did was walk around the mall, and why am I in so much pain? So this is our bucket here. You can see it's overflowing with lots of things that maybe they didn't see that were happening before, that last little bit that sent them over the edge. So we have stress, noise, an old ankle injury, tight muscles, being bullied, overweight, inflammation, fighting with a spouse, insomnia. All these things fill their bucket, and then maybe just one little drop overfills it, and now they're experiencing pain.
Yeah, love it. I've used that bucket metaphor before, where you have a tap at the bottom and you can keep pouring resources in the top or stresses in the top, and you need to let some of that water out, some of that stuff out. You can use it in lots of different ways. But yeah, thanks guys, well done. I was particularly bothered by the barbed wire handle. It just went, ew. It just did. Right, lucky last, Corey.
All right, so we got the other camera. So I don't know how we got a duplicate camera, but yeah. So Corey, turn towards me. Sorry. No, thank you. I'm not that good. So we thought about things you can use a camera for. We have a zoom feature on most cameras these days, most phones. If you think about the analogy of a zoom being like being hyper vigilant, you can focus on one thing at the exclusion of all the other material in the picture, which sometimes can lead us down a path to chronic pain. We can take a snapshot with a camera. It captures an enduring image that sometimes we'd like to forget, or maybe that we'd like to remember. Our phones all have filters on our camera features these days that we can use to do all sorts of cool stuff and filter out or filter in different images or colors, create themes with our filters, right? So we can change our environment based upon the angle that we hold our camera and the way that we look at things. Every picture tells a story, but I got a bad thumbs down on that one because somebody didn't like the Faces song. But I don't know, I think every picture really does tell a story. But does it ever really tell the whole story? That's the question that we need to think about. Pictures capture a moment in time. Things that we can focus on. Oh, okay, so just a moment in time instead of the whole story that's unfolding right in front of us. So we can use perspective to either, kind of fall short of what's really happening with just focusing on a picture, or we can, just kind of hold on to that one moment. people now capture so much through cameras, like always viewing through the lens of pain. I don't remember that. I don't really know what that means. Do you know what that means? Oh, yeah, like selfies, right? So when we're so focused on taking pictures of ourselves, we're, not really paying attention to the whole experience that we're involved in our living. And then pictures used to be black and white and no color. And now with all the addition of color and filters and things we can do with our cameras, it kind of represents the addition of complexity to our lives. So that was about it.
Thank you. Fabulous.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
So thank you so much for these really creative responses. Now, I had no clue as to how you might use those items. I was hoping, desperately hoping that group think would help create some interesting options, because I've not used them with the exception of the bucket before. So that was very cool. So we will be keeping those posters around, so if you can put them along the table when we finish, that would be really great. And then we can, you can write them down, and we'll also add them to Eric's online collection. The songs that I was hoping to play and utterly forgot, as I say. There's a few of them out there. So, that might even be a way for someone to realise that there's another way of viewing pain. It's not always bad. And I want to tell you a final story. And this is about the monk who recovered his health. Once upon a time, there was an old monk who saw death approaching in a young and sick disciple. He therefore decided to send the young man home so he could end his days with his loved ones. After 3 months, the disciple returned beaming with life and health. The old monk was filled with curiosity about what had happened in those 3 months to change a destiny of death into a destiny of longevity. He therefore asked the young man to tell him how he'd spent his time. The young monk told him that it had taken him a long time to get home because he had to walk bent over with his eyes on the ground because of pain. And while he was walking slowly, he heard the wail of an animal. He followed the sound and found a hare that had fallen into a hunter's trap. The young monk helped the animal get out of the trap, nursed its wounds, and finally set it free. Later on his way home, he found a little boy on top of a big tree, unable to get down, so he stopped to help him learn how to come down. And still later, he arrived in a village which was being flooded, so he stopped to help the villagers build a protective wall and then continued on his way until he reached his home. The old monk understood that he who is useful to life deserves to live long. And I wonder if that's one of the things that we need to remember when we're working with people who have pain. If we can teach them how to remain useful, how to return to those important things that they're losing, then we might help transform them into the monk who recovered his health. Thank you so much for your participation. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.